Hello tout le monde, hello YouTube, on se retrouve pour une nouvelle VOD, un nouveau jeu, What Remains of Edith Finch. Petit walking simulator qui commence à dater un petit peu maintenant, mais qui a marqué les esprits à l'époque, qui a marqué pas mal de gens. Et c'est ce qu'on va faire aujourd'hui, en one shot. C'est un plaisir de redécouvrir ce petit jeu avec vous. Je me rappelle plus du tout des touches. Ok. La gâchette.
A lot of this isn't going to make sense to you, and I'm sorry about that. I'm just going to start at the beginning, with the house.
Ça va être beaucoup de lecture pour vous. Enfin, en tout cas pour les non-anglophones, ce sera pas mal de lecture. Le jeu est disponible
I lived here until I was 11,
anglais.
but I wasn't allowed inside half the rooms.
Très joli jeu. Donc a forcément vieilli, hein. Il est sorti il y a quelques années maintenant quand même, mais...
Inside the mailbox were bills from 7 years ago, marked urgent, open immediately. I hadn't been back since my brother Lewis's funeral. In her will, my mother left me a key, but didn't tell me what it unlocked. Maybe she thought I'd know. Or she thought that the mystery would be enough to bring me back.
On peut passer soit par au-dessus, soit par en dessous. Et je crois que je suis jamais passé par en dessous. C'est joli, hein. J'aime trop ces petites fleurs là. Il y en a parmi vous qui savent ce que c'est comme fleurs. N'hésitez pas à me donner le nom de ces petites merveilles.
The truth is, even after I inherited the house, I never thought I'd come back to it. But now I had questions about my family that only the house knew the answers to.
On voit un
The
peu la
woods
maison
around the
derrière les
house
arbres
have
là-bas
always
d'ailleurs.
been uncomfortably silent. As if they're about to say something but never do. The house was exactly like I remembered it, the way I'd been dreaming about it.
Alors attendez, j'ai peut-être juste... Hop, augmenter la luminosité d'un petit cran encore. Ça a l'air correct. Joli le petit cerf.
No one had
Là, je
driven
prends
this
le.
way in a long time, but I saw a few hoof prints.
Ok, donc après là-bas on est revenu au point de départ. Ok. Je me demandais ce qu'il y avait sur le chemin du dessous, du coup, je l'avais jamais fait. Et vu qu'il y avait un succès pour faire les deux chemins d'affilée, je me suis dit tant qu'à faire. Autant de récupérer. J'aime pas trop qu'on n'ait pas de touche pour accélérer, qu'on peut zoomer avec la touche là. Il n'y a pas de touche pour accélérer, semblerait-il.
I asked Edie once about the dragon in the pond. She said it had killed her husband. I was 6. It seemed like an odd joke to me even then.
Le bruit de la nature, là, les petits crapauds. Rabbit, 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 rabbit. Oh, le piaf là. Ce bruit de piaf, dès que je l'entends, ça me fait penser
As
à.
a child, the house made me uncomfortable in a way I couldn't put into words.
Ça me fait penser aux ambiances de Star Fox Adventure. On l'a fait en live sur la chaîne à la fin de l'été dernier. Pour ceux que ça intéresse, il y a des rediffs sur YouTube.
Now, as a 17-year-old, I knew exactly what those words were. I was afraid of the house.
J'avais peur de la maison. La question c'est pourquoi.
I hoped the key might unlock the front door. It didn't. Looking in, I felt like the house itself had been waiting for me.
Petit sac de terreau. Ouais, ouais c'est ça, sac de terreau.
Crawling through the doggy door used to be a lot easier when I was 11.
Aïe, aïe. Le nombre de fois où le jeu vous met devant des plans comme ça, très cinématiques. Avec un vrai travail de la photo, ça ne se compte pas, hein, tellement il y en a. Et c'est un véritable plaisir pour les yeux à chaque fois. Même si, comme je l'ai dit tout à l'heure, bon, le jeu a quand même un peu vieilli maintenant, forcément.
The power had been turned off the night we left.
Y a pas d'électricité. De toute façon, on peut pas ressortir pour l'instant.
For the first time in years, I felt like I was home. But instead of a family, there were just memories of one. Like how only one restaurant would deliver to our house, so we had Chinese a lot.
Pas moi qui me plaindrais de manger chinois souvent, hein.
Or how after Louis started working at the cannery, we all got sick of eating salmon. Except our cat, Molly.
Forcément, le chat il va être content. Même si tous les chats n'aiment pas le poisson. Je sais que le mien, par exemple, le poisson, c'est pas trop son délire.
The table was still a wreck from the night we left. It was like a bomb had gone off, killing everyone but sparing the furniture.
Toujours abasourdi par la qualité des plans quoi, qui nous mettent dans la tronche. Vraiment, le jeu est vraiment très travaillé.
My mom was the only one of us who could imagine Great-Grandma Edie living in a nursing home. Nothing in the house looked abnormal. There was just too much of it, like a smile with too many teeth. Even the fireplace had a story. Edie told me the bricks came from the original house, after it sank.
Maison d'origine qu'on voit sur le cadre, hein, du coup, j'imagine. Là, on revient vers l'entrée, il y a la cuisine qui est là, je crois, voilà, c'est ça. Ok.
Great-Grandpa Sven built a music box for Barbara, along with the rest of the house.
Trop choupi.
My mom wasn't much of an optimist, but She never stopped believing that my brother Milton was alive.
Petit vitrail de la porte.
A lot of things got left behind in the whirlwind of that last night. Edie told me once that every Finch who ever lived is buried somewhere in the library.
Je sais plus si on y rentre dans la bibliothèque. Moi, il y a un QI, mais je suis pas sûr.
After Milton disappeared, Mom sealed up all the bedrooms. Then Edie retaliated and drilled peepholes. Molly always seemed like a girl I could imagine being friends with, if she hadn't died in 1947.
On voit sur la porte que la gamine elle est morte à 10 ans. Un peu jeune quand même. Hein.
Whenever people ask me about my family, the first thing they always want to know about is Barbara. Edie's father Odin built the original house. Barbara was a child star for 2 years, until America grew out of it.
Et elle avait 16 ans. Ce qui n'est pas beaucoup plus vieux. Petite bouteille de vin, tranquillou. Tranquillou pilou.
Mom must have locked the third floor stairs on the night we left.
Ok, donc ça c'est fermé pour l'instant. Donc ici on a la chambre de 2 personnes. Donc Sven qui est mort à 49 ans. À peu près, de tête, comme ça là. Et l'autre qui est mort à 93 ans. C'est pas la même. Hein. C'est clairement pas la même.
The last time I was in Edith Sr.'s room, I was 10 and she was painting my portrait.
Calvin, 11 ans. Un peu short ça aussi comme vie.
My Grandpa Sam spent 7 years sharing a room with his dead brother, Calvin.
Grégory, 1 an. Oui, Grégory, oui, je me souviens du petit Grégory.
As a kid, I just assumed every house had peepholes and sealed rooms you weren't allowed inside of.
On est plus sur une salle de bain. Ok, donc là, soit on va dans la chambre qui est là, soit on va à la porte qui est fermée en dessous. On va peut-être d'abord commencer par la porte qui est en dessous. Il me semble qu'on peut l'ouvrir maintenant, avec la fois qu'on a la clé.
Mom always told me to stay out of the basement, so I wasn't too surprised when the key didn't fit.
Ok, donc on n'a pas le choix, faut qu'on monte dans la chambre. Ok. Ok. C'est parti. D'ailleurs là on voit que la rambarde est pétée. Hein. Il y a dû y avoir un petit accident, une petite chute, peut-être. On verra bien.
I spent a lot of time playing in Great Uncle Walter's room. I think my mom sometimes regretted not sealing it up.
Encore une fois, Sacré jeu sur les lumières, sur le décor, qui rend très très bien. Et on va pouvoir assister à la première histoire de la famille.
Turns out, my mom was really good at keeping secrets. Now it was time to find out what my mom had been afraid of.
Regardez-moi ça. Aïe aïe aïe.
From the paintings on the wall, it was clear my brother Milton had been here before me. Reading this, maybe it sounds like I had a plan. But I had no idea what was behind that door. Just like I had no idea where all this was gonna lead. I grew up looking at Molly's room through the peephole. Molly's gerbil had a tiny bedroom with its own even tinier gerbil cage. Being inside for the first time, I felt like I'd stepped behind a painting.
Jolie vue hein, pour la petite chambre. Ah, par contre, le crâne de cervidé là, dans la chambre d'une gamine, je suis pas sûr de la pertinence de sa présence. On est parti pour l'histoire de Molly.
Edie had spent a lot of time here before my mom sealed the doors.
December 13th, 1947. Dear Diary, I'll be gone soon, but I wanted to tell somebody about what's gonna happen. It started when Mom sent me to bed without dinner. I woke up and I was starving, so I looked around for something to eat. My Halloween candy was all gone. Mom, can I come out now?
Sweetheart, it's late. Go to sleep.
À la fin, la gamine. Hein. Pauvre gosse.
The gerbil food was dry, but I didn't mind it.
Elle a mangé la carotte de sa gerbille, ok. Bon, le petit poisson rouge.
I thought about eating Christopher, but I held back.
Il a voulu bouffer le poisson rouge, le pauvre.
I kept eating and eating.
Arc. Oh, le dentifrice, quelle horreur.
I ate a lot of things that night.
Ça, de mémoire, c'est empoisonné. Et je suis même pas sûr que ce soit bon à bouffer en termes de goût.
Then I heard chirping outside my window. It was a barn swallow going back to her nest. I
Une
reached
petite
out
rondelle
for
bleue.
her. And suddenly, I was a cat. I tried to be quiet, but the bird was really scared.
Je suis dans la cheminée. Il n'y a personne dans le salon, semblerait-il. Il y a une échelle, là. Ok.
Mom and Dad didn't even look at me.
Ah, effectivement. Apparemment, il y a ça. Dad? Le machin tout gris, là, c'est ton père? Que les jeunes étaient encore bons.
The babies were all gone.
Oh merde, on pourra pas bouffer les petits. On va se faire une petite omelette là. C'est raté. Pas d'omelette pour ce soir.
I jumped and I almost got her.
Le petit bruit de chat trop mignon là.
I could tell she was getting really tired. Now I was up in the big tree. I promised Dad I wouldn't climb it anymore. All I cared about was eating that mama bird. I gobbled her up. And suddenly, I was an owl. First, all I heard was the wind. Then I heard little teeth nibbling in the grass. Rabbits. I imagined his face looking up and seeing mine through my talons. I swallowed him up, and I didn't chew one bit. Then I flew off to find something bigger. A mama rabbit. She was almost too big to carry. I started choking, but I couldn't stop eating. And suddenly, I was a shark.
Oui, on voit un requin sur la surface.
I rolled off the
Hop,
cliff
les-
and into the ocean. Now, I was hungrier than ever.
Qu'est-ce qu'on va bien pouvoir manger? Oh, un phoque. Un petit
I
phoque des
wanted
familles.
fat, juicy seals.
Contrôle inversé, par contre, c'est un enfer. Hein.
I tore off her flipper, and it tasted really good.
Je suis désolé plus ça vous donne la gerbe, mais j'ai vraiment du mal à contrôler vu que les contrôles sont inversés en fait. Pour le requin.
Grabbed on tight. But I was so hungry, I jumped out of the water. When I opened my eyes, everything had changed. Now I was a monster, and I smelled people everywhere. I was big, but I moved real quiet. I wanted to stop, but also I didn't.
His belly was rusty, his belly was rusty, his belly was rusty, razor. One sailor was drunk, sailor was drunk, sailor was drunk, sailor. Put him bed with the captain's daughter, put him in bed with the captain's daughter, put him in bed with the captain's daughter. One sailor was drunk, sailor was drunk, sailor was drunk, sailor. Sailor was drunk and sailor. Put him on the scuppers with a hose by bottom. Put him on the scuppers with a hose by bottom. Put him on the scuppers with a hose by bottom. One sailor was drunk. Sailor was drunk. Sailor was drunk and sailor.
Il est bourré comme jamais le con. Petit marin avec un petit goût supplémentaire d'alcool. Aromatisé au rhum le marin.
last passenger, I was still hungry. And to cross the water, I smelled something new. Something I had to have, so I swam towards it. I slithered onto the sand, and the good smell went into an old pipe. I got closer and closer. All of my stomach started growling. And suddenly, I was me again. I held my breath for a long time, but I couldn't hear anything. I think it's waiting for me to fall asleep. But it's not going to wait much longer. It needs to feed, and we both know I will be delicious.
I'm not sure if I believed all of that, but I'm sure Edie would have.
Donc c'est l'histoire de Molly. Un des trucs compliqués dans ce jeu, c'est de savoir...
I can't describe it, but I felt like some part of Molly was still here.
dissocier la fiction de la réalité. Ah, le petit chat. Il y avait le chat là.
This will be obvious later, but my mom never told me any of these stories. Edie would have, but Mom didn't like bringing up the past. Though, when we adopted a stray kitten, she was the one who named it Molly. I spent a lot of time in Great-Grandma Edie's room. We got along, and it was a good place to hide from my mom. One summer, they evacuated the island, but Edie refused to go. For a few weeks, she was a celebrity.
Et donc il y a écrit qu'elle n'a pas voulu évacuer la maison malgré qu'il y avait un feu de forêt.
Edie gave a big interview about a mole man living under the Finch house. My mom was furious. I hadn't thought of myself as Edith Jr. for a long, long time.
Et puis c'est écrit Edith Junior sur la cassette.
When Edie told people Sven was killed by a dragon, she could also have said he was building a dragon-shaped slide that collapsed. She could have, but she didn't.
C'est la tête de dragon qu'on voyait dans le point d'eau en bas de la maison.
Even in her 90s, sometimes Edie seemed a lot younger than my mother.
La fameuse salle de bain.
The only trace Grandpa Sam's first wife Kay left on the house was the pink bathroom. It was a pretty big trace.
Avec aussi un bouquin. Donc il y a 2 bouquins ici à lire. On va commencer par celui qui est là-bas. Ah tiens, attendez, il y a ça aussi à regarder.
Louis died a week before we left, but Edie had already started to memorialize him. Edie knit me a new pair of gloves every year, just in time to replace the old ones. Her room was like a museum. For 500 years, the Finches have been famous throughout Norway for their fortune and misfortune. Odin Finch buries the latest victims of the family curse, his wife Ingeborg and their newborn son, Johan. On January 7th, 1937, he set sail with his family and his house, hoping to leave the curse behind.
Ah, c'est vrai qu'ils ont carrément déplacé la maison à l'époque.
But 40-foot waves off the coast of Washington send the house and Odin to the bottom of the sea. Odin's daughter Edie, with husband Sven and baby Molly, step ashore on their new home, Orcas Island. Odin Finch is the first to be buried in the new family cemetery. His daughter Edie is already dreaming of a new Finch house.
Ok, c'est la fin.
Whatever's wrong with this family, it goes back a long ways. There's a secret in this bathroom. It's in the last place you would look. It isn't in the cupboard. It's hidden in this book. Sven gave Sam an old camera he'd refurbished. He never put it down. I knew Grandpa Sam had a twin, and that he never talked about him.
Il manque un peu d'isolation par ici, vu le bruit qu'il y a à la fenêtre.
I guess my grandpa didn't like history any more than my mom did.
How I Want to Remember My Brother by Sam Finch. The thing I remember is that when he made up his mind, that was it. My brother said he'd die before he ate another mushroom, and he did. At Barbara's funeral, we swore we'd never be afraid again, and he wasn't.
Là, ce qui est drôle en fait, c'est que chaque stick
Wanted to fly.
correspond à une jambe en fait. Donc si je bouge juste un stick, il n'y a qu'une seule jambe qui bouge. C'est assez drôle.
But that day, he finally made up his mind to do it. I told him going around was impossible. Maybe if I hadn't said that, maybe if the wind hadn't picked up, then maybe he'd still be here. But I doubt it. I think he'd already made up his mind. That's what I want to remember about my brother. The day he made up his mind to fly. And he did.
Calvin's story felt strangely familiar. When I was younger, I remember trying to do the exact same thing. After the funeral, Edie roped off Calvin's half of the room. Mom said Grandpa Sam enlisted at 18 and never set foot in the room again.
Les passages secrets de cette baraque sont vraiment beaucoup trop
The
stylés.
passages were a pretty tight fit. They'd obviously been built for smaller hands and bellies.
Donc là on peut ressortir au niveau des vins. Si on le souhaite. Et on peut y retourner évidemment.
Growing up, I always thought of Barbara as a child star.
Donc elle, de mémoire, on rappelle, elle est morte à 16 ans. Hein.
I never thought about how hard it must have been for her afterwards. Of all the stories people wrote about Barbara's death, I'm surprised Edie saved this one.
Old Jack here with another ghastly tale inspired by America's most unfortunate family. I'm calling it The Surprise Ending of Barbara Finch. As a child star, Barbara was famous for her scream. Now at 16, she was all washed up. A has-been. But in a lucky break, she'd been asked to perform her signature scream at a local convention for monster movie fans. It was just the boost her career needed. Unfortunately, her scream hadn't aged well.
Getting better. I think you just need the right motivation.
Her biggest fan and current boyfriend, Rick, was about to demonstrate when...
Now that was a great scream.
It was Barbara's father, Sven. He'd slipped into a table saw and had to be rushed to the emergency room. So Barbara got stuck babysitting her youngest brother, Walter. Her convention comeback was cancelled.
Okay, I'm hearing frustration, but I'm not hearing terror. What if I tried...
A gang of hoodlums in Halloween masks have been terrorizing Orcas Island tonight. Police are urging residents to...
That came from the basement.
You're right! Also, I loved your delivery on that. Why is your basement door locked?
Because my dad likes making puzzles and secret passages. There's a key hidden in the music box. The secret is to keep winding and winding until finally the key pops out.
Thanks, babe. I'll be back in a sec.
20 minutes later, Rick hadn't returned. So Barbara went to look for him, right on cue. She reached for the music box. And as she wound the key, she listened for Rick, but the house was silent. She found Rick's crutch and imagined the worst.
The gang's leader is the infamous Hookman killer, Dr. Carl Hamill, who impaled and then ate his family 10 years ago tonight.
The old fridge rattled and grew still.
Oh dear!
Oh!
Rick?
Barb, relax. I was just trying to scare you to help you find your scream.
Well, I'm not scared, Rick. I'm furious.
Then act furious. All I'm getting from you now is that you're hurt and confused and...
She threw him out, but she kept a little something to remember him by.
Barb, have you seen my other crutch?
And she was still holding it when she fell asleep watching the late picture show. Hours later...
Barbara! Walter, what's going on up there? Ah! Okay, I'm coming up. But if this is a trick, you're dead, Walter.
Walter had vanished, but his bedside radio was still on.
Orcas Island police describe the man as 6 feet tall, with a steel hook for a hand. Residents are urged to lock all doors and windows and notify the police of any suspicious activity.
Barbara turned, saw the hook man, and was speechless. He was quite smashing. And he couldn't get enough of Barbara.
Okay, Barbara, there's gotta be another way out of here.
That night, she played her part beautifully. She thought about abandoning Walter, but just couldn't do it. Molly's door hadn't been opened in years. The hinges groaned. He wasn't moving, but she sensed the story might not be over yet. The hookman had vanished. She listened for his breathing, but all she heard was... Someone at the door was dying to speak to young Barbara. At the door, she heard whispering. It was coming from inside the house.
Oh dear.
The monsters had come to surprise her. For Barbara, it was a dream come true. Then she saw what kind of monsters they were, and she realized what was about to happen. She was going to be famous. And with her final breath, Barbara Finch gave the performance of her life. I wasn't there myself, but I hear Barbara was magnificent. Poor girl. She had a taste for stardom. But unfortunately, so did her fans. Of course, the police blamed it all on poor Rick, who disappeared the same night. And little Walter? Hiding under his bed the whole time. He took it all pretty hard, but that's another story. As for Barbara, tucked inside the music box is all they ever found of her. Her ear. That's what I call a real eerie tale.
Le jeu de mots d'origine est quand même bien plus drôle. Mais bon, c'était pas évident à traduire correctement.
Edie told me all Barbara wanted was to be remembered, as absurd as that comic was. Maybe what Edie saw was a happy ending.
Et du coup, on sait pas vraiment de quoi elle est morte, hein.
I guess now I know why Mom didn't like me playing with the music box. Ce qui me perturbe, c'est qu'il y a un succès mettre les boules de billard dans le machin, mais comment tu fais en fait? Regardez-moi ça encore. Ce jeu est un émerveillement à chaque fois, hein. C'est... Mom said the
C'est vraiment
basement was
dingue.
off limits, unless I wanted another tetanus shot.
Elle a la maquette du dragon.
I saw Edie sneak down to the basement once, carrying packages. I thought maybe she was hiding presents. It turned out she was hiding a lot more than that. I remember asking Mom once about where Walter had gone. She said after Barbara died, he got as far away as he could. If there's a pattern in all these stories, I think it's that none of us has gotten very far.
Ans, si je me trompe pas. Attends, j'ai mal avec les dates. Trompe-l'œil.
Goodbye, everyone. I can't believe I've been down here for 30 years. On that first day, after the shaking started, I didn't think I'd survive a week. But after a few days, I settled into a routine. That's what kept me sane. Having a schedule, living for today. I always expected to be dead tomorrow. But if you wait long enough, you get used to anything. Even a monster on the other side of the door starts to feel normal. Almost friendly. And then one day, everything just stopped. Whatever that thing was, it was gone. Maybe it got tired of waiting. Or maybe I just got tired of being afraid. It's been a week now, the longest in 30 years. I'm done waiting. I have to leave while I still can. I know it's out there, somewhere. Whatever killed Barbara and Molly and Calvin. Maybe this is all a mistake. But I need to stop living the same day, even if it kills me. Whatever's out there, I want you to know I'm ready for it. I'm going to appreciate all of it, especially the food. I don't mind if I only have a year left, or a month, or a single week. I'd be happy with one new day. I can already imagine the sun on my face.
Walter died when I was 6. I can't believe my mom never told me he was down here. I'm sure my mom was trying to protect me. Maybe she was afraid I'd end up like Walter. But if she never told me about an uncle under the house, I can only imagine what else she was hiding. I don't want to make the same mistakes she made. Trying to bury something that's still alive. Now that there's only one of us left, or maybe two, I thought it was time I heard the stories for myself and found out what happened to everyone else. But now I'm worried the stories themselves might be the problem. Maybe we believed so much in a family curse, we made it real. I don't know if I should even be writing this. Maybe it'd be better if all this just died with me. But I thought you should know about your family. And the history you're a part of.
Il y a vraiment un côté apaisant dans ce jeu. Une sorte de sérénité un peu triste.
Though to be honest, I feel as lost as you probably do right now.
Une mélancolie.
I think the people in these stories believed them, for what that's worth. And when you look at the house, that history of imagination and stubbornness and madness, any of it seems possible. I think we've been surrounded by death for so long, we've just gotten used to it. What kind of family finishes building a cemetery before starting the house? It's embarrassing for me to admit this, but the pet cemetery made me more uncomfortable than the human one. 3 of the gerbils are mine, and 2 had been my fault.
Christopher le poisson rouge.
Sven built the house, but it was Edie who designed the cemetery. I'm sure Odin's monument had been Edie's idea. My mom was always trying to move on, but for Edie, the past never went away. She could see it poking out of the water at low tide. Edie said she dreamed about the old house every night. Edie's side was always easier for me to understand. But the older I get, the more I can see where my mom was coming from. Her dad had been pretty strict, but it wasn't enough to save her brothers. She was just trying to do better. She lost 2 of her brothers, just like I did. I get why she tried so hard to protect us. We never found Milton's body, so my mom insisted we were putting up a monument, not a tombstone. There's so many things I wish I could ask my mom now. Part of me thinks this is what she wanted all along. For me to come back someday and find everything out for myself. But looking back on it now, If she told me there was going to be so much climbing, I never would have come when I was 22 weeks pregnant. I never met Grandpa Sam, but I think he and my mom had a lot in common. They were both pretty intense. Instead of hiding from death, Sam seemed to go out of his way to meet it. Sam spent his life shooting photos, but Mom said he got nervous being in front of the camera. I guess we're all afraid of something.
Dawn, I promise, you'll never forget this weekend.
Yes, sir.
These memories are gonna last a lifetime.
Am I gonna have to shoot anything?
It's a hunting trip, Dawn. Shooting is strongly encouraged. Perfect.
It's gonna rain the whole weekend, isn't it? I will never forget this weekend, Dad.
That's the spirit. Smile, Dawn. Okay, got it.
I'm gonna take some pictures, okay?
Just be careful. That camera's older than you are.
You're right, Dad. It's starting to clear up. Still freezing, though.
Definitely should not have drunk all that coffee.
Hold still while I take a picture of you.
I definitely won't be moving.
Are you done yet?
Does it sound like I'm done? Nothing quite like being outside. Oop, a little more gas in the tank, I guess. Hey!
That's a keeper.
I'm just saying, I'm not always gonna be here, Dawn. You'll need to remember this stuff, if you want to survive.
I'll be fine, Dad.
You know who else thought he was gonna be fine?
Some guy who died.
Don, I'm being serious.
I know, Dad. You're always... Dad!
Good eyes, Don. Before you take the shot, let me get a picture of you.
Dad, I...
Just breathe. Turn off your imagination. Focus on your target. Let me get behind you.
Do I have to do this?
Dawn, you don't have to do anything. But if you want to survive, you'll need to be strong. Now keep yourself squared up, elbows down, like we practiced. Whenever you're ready. Great shot, Dawn! I'm proud of you, Dawn. Always remember that, okay?
Dad, it's twitching. I think
That's
it's
totally
so...
normal, Dawn. Just focus on the camera. Try not to think about...
Dad!
Of all these stories, that's the one I wish most that my mom had told me.
Je vais aux toilettes en vitesse, je reviens de suite. Me revoilà. Et reparti.
After Sam died, my mom and Edie got really close. They'd both lost a lot.
Petite faute dans la traduction là. Se sont devenus proches. Je pense qu'il y a eu un trompage entre se sont rapprochés et sont devenus proches, et ça donnait se sont devenus proches. C'est ma théorie contre la faute de traduction.
I can't imagine my mom ever writing poetry, and yet...
Dear Kay, do you remember the way Gregory used to laugh when he thought he was alone? Like something funny was happening, but only he could see it. I think he saw things the rest of us don't.
Gregory, it's time to... Hold on, sweetie. Hello? Sam, I told you I don't want to talk right now.
I wonder what he saw. What his world was like. He reminded me so much of Calvin. Lost in his imagination. Whatever it was, he saw. It sure made him happy. Silly it sounds. That I worried about a baby being too happy. I could feel him slipping away.
Sorry about that, Gregory.
I know you did everything you could. Maybe if I hadn't called that night.
Damn it. Hold on, I don't want Gregory to hear this.
I wish he could have told us about the world he saw. There's so much I don't understand about Gregory. About everything. wasn't your fault. I'm sure he's happy. And he'd want you to be happy too. Good luck, Kay. Love, Sam.
Grégory mort noyé.
A poem for Gus, who always said the wedding was a bad idea. Our father never hit us kids, at least not very hard, before the day my brother said with teenage disregard that he'd be dead before he'd see a wedding in our yard. Father made him come, of course, but Gus stood far apart, just flew his kite and bottled up the storm inside his heart. I tried to talk him out of it, but though he'd never met her, "We don't need a stepmom," were the words that
I now pronounce you husband and wife. Make him cry.
When the time for photos came, Dad ordered him to come here. But Gus declined, and as a sign held up his middle finger. The wind picked up, and panicked geese appeared and quickly went. But all the humans did that day was go inside the tent. Rain came down in buckets then, but no one seemed afraid that nature might destroy the tent our dad had crudely made. The thunder sounded much too close and full of angry power. But all my father said to this was, "Make the music louder." I wish that I could truly say I thought about you on that day. Out there on the beach alone, just you, the wind, the sea, and foam. But I didn't, until we found you.
She never talked about him, but Mom told me once if I was a boy, they were going to name me Gus. My mom moved up to the loft after her brothers died. At the time, it was as far away as she could get. My mom moved to India a week after graduation and got a job teaching English. She spent a summer building houses in Calcutta, where she met my dad, Sanjay.
Ok, on est juste redescendu, mais... Ok, on n'a plus qu'à remonter. Aïe aïe aïe. Parce que je me suis bien brûlé la langue en mangeant ce soir, hein. Je sens aucun goût sur le bout de la langue là, avec mon thé, c'est assez désagréable.
When my dad died, I don't think Mom knew where else to go. I'm sure Edie was happy to have her back. The house had to get a little bigger, but Edie was used to that. And for a while, things were good, almost normal. But it didn't last. The beginning of the end was Milton's 10th birthday, when Edie gave him a castle. After Milton disappeared, the only thing he left behind was a room full of paintings. I think Edie was happy to finally have another painter in the family.
morceau préféré du jeu, ça.
Milton Finch in The Magic Paintbrush.
Ah, c'est écrit. Ah, moi je suis con, évidemment que c'est écrit en français. Je vais dire, ouah, c'est écrit en français, mais oui, c'est logique en fait.
I was 4 when Milton disappeared.
Et il avait à peine 11 ans.
Mom spent months searching for my brother. Then she sealed the doors.
Ça doit tellement être horrible ça.
Whatever Milton had found in the house, Mom didn't want it getting out.
Ton gosse il disparaît et tu le retrouves jamais, quoi. Pas pourquoi, ni comment, rien du tout. Ça doit être un enfer.
Mom definitely blamed Edie, but I think Louis blamed himself. After he graduated, he just spent more and more time in his room. Until Mom got him a job at the cannery.
Ça c'est cassé.
Everyone always told me to stay out of Louis's room. Except Louis.
Ils ont quand même fait monter un bateau ici. Hein. Bon, en tout cas un bout de bateau. La maison est tellement stylax.
Louis's room smelled very, very familiar. That part of him lived on.
Non, je voulais pas ressortir en fait. Avec la petite chicha au milieu là. Tiens, Wonderland Turbo, la fameuse.
Louis and I spent a lot of time playing games together, but he was surprisingly bad at them. He died a lot.
Avec le drapeau indien.
He was so proud of being Indian. I think for him, it was a way to be something other than just a Finch.
je me trompe pas, le cercle au centre du drapeau représente le chakra. Si je ne me trompe pas, il me semble.
Dear Mrs. Finch, as Lewis's psychiatrist, I can understand your desire for an explanation. As I see it, the trouble began in January, shortly after we convinced your son to seek treatment for substance abuse. Newly sober, I believe Lewis first noticed the monotony of his daily life. He kept working at the cannery, but he withdrew part of himself. In our sessions, I saw the same behavior. His mind began to wander. I asked him to describe it. He said he started small, imagining a labyrinth. He'd feel his way about. Then something moved. Bats. And toads. And things that have not names. He knew it was all in his head. But he took it very seriously. I had hoped he'd find himself.
Donc là, en fait, ce qui se passe, c'est qu'avec le stick droit, je coupe le poisson, avec le stick gauche, je déplace le personnage dans l'univers qui est à gauche.
But he found something more. I worried about him then, daydreaming at the cannery. I spoke with his boss. But he said Lewis had become a model employee. Methodical, tireless, focused. Like a whole new Lewis. So I let him go on. I even encouraged him. It seemed very promising at first. He told me he'd made a new friend. On the edge of a city he named Lewis-topia. He built the city up slowly, brick by brick. Then he made musicians. And songs for them to play. He talked about starting a band. And he was always humming something. Every day his imagination grew stronger. He no longer spoke at the cannery. But his chopping was as reliable as ever. Then one day it struck him that all the cheering crowds, even the stones under his feet, were all in his imagination, so he could do whatever he wished. He held an election for mayor. And he won. They begged him to stay, but his mind was already wandering. It became a game for him. He'd conquer a city, then immediately push on. New Louisville. St. Louis. He started drifting away from our reality. Minneapolis. Until one day he forgot to go home from the cannery. Even as his mother pleaded with him, part of Louis kept sailing on. In Louisburg, he heard rumors of a handsome queen. The queen was on her own quest for sinister serpents. He followed the sound of her silver harp. His chase led him to a golden palace east of the sun and west of the moon. Even then, his logic remained sound. He knew the world was all in his imagination. But he was so proud of having created it. In his own eyes, he'd become something greater than a king. For someone who'd never known success in the real world, I think it was overwhelming. And then it struck him that the real Louis was not the one chopping salmon, but the one climbing the steps of a golden palace. My imagination is as real as my body, he told me. It was hard to argue with him. He began to forget the world we know.
Même une vieille conserverie de poissons, ils arrivent à la rendre dingue en termes d'image, quoi. Regardez-moi ça, les jeux de lumière, de couleurs, enfin... C'est vraiment des sacrés bonhommes, hein.
I think it pained him to remember Louis, the cannery worker. He began to despise the man with a royal contempt. I still thought I could save him. even after he said he was being crowned king over all the lands of wonder. The palace would be packed with his companions. Including the wise Calico who had insisted on advising him. Holding his crown. There was only one thing left to do. Bend down his head. I think you know. Mrs. Finch, your son was a kind man who will be missed by all of us who knew him.
My brother was really cool. I wish you could have met him.
Sûrement la fin la plus tragique de cette histoire, je crois.
On the way back from Lewis's funeral, my mom told me to start packing. She waited until the day before we left to tell Edie. I'm not sure if she wanted to make it easier or harder. I wish we'd stayed. But I understand why we left. My mom ended up leaving everything behind. What happened that night had been coming for a long time. Maybe it should have come sooner. But it had to end one way or another. All that's left now is to tell you about that last night.
That whole last day, Edie just watched us pack and didn't say a word. Until supper, when she raised her glass and said,
"To our final night together, and all our final nights apart."
Grandma, you know what I said about alcohol. Some of your medications are very
Edith,
specific.
I left a present for you in the hallway. Why don't you go open it? The grown-ups have to argue now.
I'm sorry, you're right. We're all leaving tomorrow. Let's just enjoy our last...
I'm not leaving.
Edith, you're excused.
The power had been shut off that morning, but Edie always had plenty of candles. When my mom sealed the library, I don't think she knew about the other entrance. Or that Edie had a key to it.
That thing you're afraid of isn't going to end when you leave the house. Edith has a right to know these stories.
My children are dead because of your stories. I think it's best if Edith and I leave tonight. We'll have the nursing home send a van for you in the morning, okay?
Dear Edith, there's so many stories I wish I could tell you, but there's only time for one. This is about what happened on the night you were born. That night, the tide went way, way out. It was the first and last time I ever saw the old house aground. There'd been an earthquake out in the middle of the ocean. They called it the lowest tide in 1,000 years. God, it smelled awful. You know, I've seen that house every day of my life. But I never thought I'd go back to it. When the fog rolled in, I lost my way. I got turned around. For a while, I wandered. I started seeing things. Things I'd forgotten had ever existed. But when I saw them, they felt like old friends. That night, a lot of things came back to me. Or maybe I came back to them. Things I can't explain, but that I need you to try and...
Edith, what are you doing in here?
It's mine.
Edith!
Mom, you're gonna rip it. Let go. kicked and screamed, but Mom dragged me to the car. I never saw Great-Grandma Edie again. The next morning, the van came to pick her up, but she was already gone. After that, we moved around a lot. We both tried to make the best of it. A few years went by. My mom didn't like to talk about it, but she started getting sick a lot. The rest happened pretty quickly. She got better for a while, and then she didn't. And then I was alone. The last Finch left alive. Until I found out about you. I'm still not sure what to tell you about all this. If we lived forever, maybe we'd have time to understand things. But as it is, I think the best we can do is try to open our eyes. And appreciate how strange and brief all of this is. This journal was supposed to be for you. But now I hope you'll never see it. I just want to meet you. And tell you all these stories myself. But I guess if you're reading this now, things didn't work out that way. This is where your story begins. I'm sorry I won't be there to see it. It's a lot to ask, but I don't want you to be sad that I'm gone. I want you to be amazed that any of us ever had a chance to be here at all. Good luck.
Voilà et voilà. La toute fin. C'est vraiment la toute fin. Et ce qui est bizarre, c'est que j'ai aucun contrôle sur le menu là. Mais c'est pas bien grave, de toute façon, on va fermer. Enfin voilà. Finalement, ça se fait beaucoup plus vite que ce que je pensais. On l'a fait en 2h20. En regardant le crédit au complet, hein. Ce que je fais assez rarement. Mais là, il est suffisamment original pour qu'on le fasse en entier, quand même. Qu'il est pas bien long au final, quand même. Et voilà. J'espère que si vous ne connaissiez pas le jeu, bah, ça vous a permis de le découvrir. On est vraiment sur une petite histoire, une petite aventure assez particulière. Qui flirte en permanence entre le fictif et le réel, sans jamais nous dire réellement le réel au final. Parce qu'on nous met en avant surtout le fictif. Et on ne sait jamais vraiment comment la plupart de ces personnes sont mortes. Ou portées disparues. Et ouais. Ça me fait toujours quelque chose de jouer ou de revivre ce jeu à travers des let's play ou autres. La DA globale, l'ambiance, les plans photographiques, la musique. C'est vraiment un sacré mélange de choses qui rendit l'aventure et l'histoire touchante. Et le gameplay est souvent globalement assez utilisé de manière immersive et de manière de nous faire vivre vraiment ce qui nous est raconté. Et cette petite combinaison marche très bien sans pour autant nous demander beaucoup en termes de contrôle, quoi. Et ouais, c'est un peu dommage que ces jeux-là, les Walking Simulator, aient quasiment disparu de la circulation en fait. D'ailleurs, à ce sujet, je vous conseille une excellente vidéo de Games au pluriel? Je sais plus si c'est au pluriel. Game Next Door. Dont la dernière ou l'avant-dernière vidéo, je sais plus, porte justement sur ce qui est arrivé au Walking Simulator, pourquoi et comment ils ont disparu, pourquoi on n'en fait plus. Et ce qui est bien, c'est que il y a un jeu qui est sorti il y a pas longtemps, qu'on a fait en live juste avant, qui justement est un Walking Simulator, et du coup ça fait plaisir de voir un nouveau membre de la famille des Walking Simulator apparaître, et ce jeu c'est justement 1000 fois Resist, qu'on a fait en quelques lives il y a peu, et qui a été aussi très marquant, très riche, avec une histoire très particulière mais très touchante aussi, mais d'une autre façon. D'une façon très différente. Donc je vous recommande le let's play d'ailleurs, soit directement sur les rediffs Twitch, parce qu'à l'heure actuelle c'est les seuls qui sont disponibles, soit sur les rediffs YouTube quand elles seront mises en ligne. Normalement d'ailleurs, pour la VOD, au moment où cette vidéo sortira, les VOD de 1000 fois Resist seront sortis, étant donné que je sors tout dans l'ordre de stream. Par contre, vous, en live actuellement, les VOD sont pas encore disponibles. On est en train de finir les VOD de Stamper Elite 4 actuellement. Mais voilà. Donc ouais, deux choses que je vous recommande. Allez regarder le let's play de 1000 fois Resist. D'ailleurs, ce que je vous recommande surtout, c'est de éventuellement commencer à regarder la première vidéo. Et si je vous donne envie, d'aller faire le jeu. Et la deuxième, du coup, c'est aller regarder la vidéo de Game Next Door, où il parle des Walking Simulator. Si j'y pense, je mettrai la vidéo en commentaire ou en description sur la VOD. Donc n'hésitez pas à aller jeter un œil. Sur ce YouTube, on se dit à bientôt pour de nouvelles aventures. J'ai une petite idée du prochain jeu qu'on fera en live. Même si on arrive fin mai, et fin juin, il n'y a les 2 trucs principaux qui arrivent, que j'attends avec impatience, qui sont le DLC d'Elden Ring et la prochaine extension de Final Fantasy XIV, qui sera l'occasion pour nous de refaire le jeu de A à Z avec les graphismes augmentés, et on fera l'aventure entièrement en live de A à Z. Ça risque de nous occuper un petit moment. Tout comme le DLC d'Elden Ring d'ailleurs. D'ici là, on aura le temps de faire au moins un jeu. Ça dépendra du temps que le prochain nous prendra. Sur ce, YouTube, ciao ciao.